Oh, it's on now. My loyal members of the HNS party, the gauntlet has been thrown. Recently, one of you had the audacity to challenge me in the hopes that I would make the encounter you desire. And I'm here to say that it worked all too well. And furthermore, I'm putting it out there for all of you who one day come across this channel while venturing throughout the vast wasteland that is YouTube. I am officially accepting your challenges. There are only 3 rules you have to follow when challenging me. 1. The encounter must include a creature which is the focus. You can include multiple creatures, but the encounter videos I make always star one creature I go over in more detail, so you must be clear in your challenge who the star creature is. 2. The creature has to be one that I have not already made a video on so we can have some variety. However, this doesn't apply to creatures that have multiple variations. For example, just because I did a video on a black dragon, you can still challenge me to make a video on a gold dragon, green dragon, bronze, etc. 3. The creature needs to be from an official 5e sourcebook, so the Monster Manual, Volos, Tome, etc. And that's it. So go ahead, tell your friends, family, or even goddamn Reddit that I accept your challenge. Make them as difficult or nutty as you want. Give me your best shot. I'm not saying I'll do them all, because there are only so many hours in the week and there is a long list of videos I still have to do. But if there's one people are particularly interested in, or if there's one that I find particularly interesting, I'll take a crack at it. But I'll give you some advice beforehand. Make it more difficult than this one. What? Because they're hippo people, you think I can't make it serious? That I can't pluck at your player's heartstrings? Please. I'll kill a character's parents with one hand while making them sympathize with the villain in the other. But anyways, enough with the preamble. The goal of today's encounter is to take a character that has a ridiculous appearance and craft a series of encounters in a way where the tone is still serious and your players are still heavily invested. Hello, my name is Matt and welcome to My Hidden Nerdy Side, a channel created by a nerd who doesn't have many nerdy friends, and so I must rant to you, and today we're tackling the hippo-headed humanoids known as the Giff. We're going to take a look at their lore, info, and abilities, and then build an encounter you can steal, modify, and plop straight into your D&D games. Now, if you are well aware of the lore and mechanics behind the Giff, then feel free to pop on over to the timestamp right here so you can jump straight to the encounter itself. I'll leave a clickable version in the description below. Alright, let's take a look at the Giff. To make sure this video is a decent length, we'll only be pulling the Giff lore, info, and abilities that exist within Mordekainen's Tome of Foes, all of which can be found on page 204. So like I said, they are hippo people standing at around 7 feet tall who typically wear extravagant and tacky military garb. And believe it or not, they are commonly known as spacefaring mercenaries and renowned for their training in physical combat and explosives, because sure, why not? From their birth to their death, each Giff has a military rank that is earned through achievements, not age. And a Giff is trained to follow the orders of their superiors without question. Because of the reasons above, Giff are highly sought after as warriors for hire, but will only fight in squads completely made out of Giff and will not fight in battles where there are Giff on the other side. And Giff will put the honor of their squadron above their own life, further cementing their loyalty to the ways of their people. Giff also usually smell of gunpowder and love to use it for a variety of military purposes, most of them resulting in a big boom. So much so that they'll even accept gunpowder as payment over gold or gems. This might lead you to think that the Giff would love to cast spells that go boom as well, but that is far from the truth. Very rarely will a Giff practice magic, and nearly every Giff would way rather focus their attention on enhancing their martial prowess and their knowledge of explosives. And finally, despite dedicating their lives to the art of warfare, Giff are very loving and devoted to their children. Now, looking at their actions and abilities, which can also be found on page 204 of Mordekainen's Tome of Foes, there are a few cool things. They can headbutt people and knock them prone, and due to firearm training, they get to ignore the loading property on pistols and muskets. However, it does does get a bit confusing when you look at their attacks, since it says they have multi-attack, but it only says they can make 2 pistol attacks despite also having a musket and longsword. So for the sake of this encounter, we are going to say they can make 2 attacks using any of their weapons, but only one of those attacks can be with their musket. And finally, they can also lob a goddamn fragmentation grenade once a day. They can lob it up to 60 feet, causing up to 5d6 piercing damage within 20 feet of the grenade. One homebrew change before we begin. We're going to make a Giff foot soldier, which will be a weaker version of your standard Giff. This is because your party will end up taking on a fair number of Giff, and at their level, a dozen or so beefy boys with 60 HP and a 16 AC is doable, but it will make combat drag on quite a bit. So the foot soldier will have their HP cut in half, their AC drop down to 14, and they can only make 1 attack. Okay, so now that we've gone over the basic Giff lore info and abilities, let's start crafting an encounter. This encounter/quest will be aimed at parties level 6 to 10 depending on how difficult you want to make it, and last 6 to 10 sessions depending on how much you want to stretch it out. I know that's many more sessions than I usually go for, but you'll see why in a minute. The party's motivation should always be tailored to the campaign, but for simplicity's sake, we'll just say your party is hunting someone down who works for your campaign's BBEG, so they can acquire more information about him, her, or they. So your party will be traveling and will come across an older looking Giff in tattered military attire. He will also be wearing a makeshift ghillie suit and have a weird misshaped worm resting on his shoulder eating some berries. The Giff will be sitting around a campfire cleaning his musket and will have a rickshaw with barrels of gunpowder roughly 15 feet away from him. However, this Giff, who we'll call Vernon, will be very perceptive, and if he hears the party coming closer, he will immediately whip out one of his pistols, point it towards them, and demand they stay back and state their business. After talking with the party and realizing they aren't a threat, Vernon will put his pistol away and explain the situation. There's a faction of Giff mercenaries led by a Captain Algernon, who broke one of their people's sacred rules. They fought against and killed other Giff. Vernon and his daughter Mabel witnessed the atrocity, but Mabel was injured during their retreat. And so Vernon went alone to report the atrocity to his higher-ranking officers. However, the officers said it was Vernon's word against Algernon's, and since Algernon claims it wasn't true and outranks Vernon, they sided with Algernon. Vernon will say he is now hunting them down so they can pay for their crimes and has tracked them to a fort located a few weeks away. And he will mention they were fighting alongside a powerful mage called Jericho. This mage will be the same mage who was working for your BBEG. And so since they have a common goal, Vernon will offer to fight alongside the party until they find Jericho. Vernon will mention he would like to capture the mage alive so he can question him about other possible Giff traitors. And so, if your party accepts his offer, for a little while they'll have a new party member. Now, we want the players to really care about this guy. Most players will automatically sympathize with Vernon since he is a loving father, is going after the same guy your party is, and just wants to avenge his people. But make sure to give him a personality your players can engage with and easily latch onto. For example, you can give him a low, wise old man voice like this to make him stand out from other NPCs. And whenever one of your female party members does something quirky, Vernon can laugh and say, "Man, you remind me a lot about my little girl, you know?" Maybe you could also have him react to magic like old people in real life react to cell phones and say stuff like, "Wow, did you make that fireball appear just by waving your hands?" Well, geez, what will they come up with next? It doesn't matter what you choose, just make it fun and memorable. Also, have him be really useful to the party, like giving them information about their future Giff enemies to the best of his knowledge and give them military training tips. However, the number one tool in your arsenal when it comes to wanting people to form a bond with someone is time. If you meet an NPC one session and then resolve their tragic backstory the next, people don't have enough enough time to get attached, and so the moment won't have that much of an impact. So after your party meets Vernon, have him travel with the party for at least several sessions. Run some encounters or quests while they're on their way to Jericho, and have him be really useful to the party. Let them form inside jokes and create wonderful experiences with him. What you choose to do in that time is your call, but one thing that should be included is an encounter with 2 other creatures. Your party will come across an elven woman and a heavily disfigured elven man. His arms will be short and twisted in different directions, one of his eyes will be drooping down his face, his teeth will be jagged, he will walk with a limp, and he won't be able to speak intelligibly. The elven woman will mention her husband was walking in the forest and some Giff, along with a mage who has the same description as Jericho, kidnapped her husband and placed a curse on him called the Curse of Kaltuo. The mage told the Giff to let him go since it doesn't matter if they hold on to him or not. That's all the woman's husband managed to tell her before he lost his ability to speak. She will then mention her husband complained of unbearable pain and has been shrinking and becoming deformed ever since. If the party uses sending or message to try and speak with the man, they'll notice his inability to speak even affects his telepathic speech, and no restoration or remove curse spell will work. At this point, Vernon will explain he saw similar sights when he witnessed Captain Algernon and Jericho killing Giff mercenaries, and that he has conducted lots of research into this Curse of Kaltuo. He will say it's an ancient and forbidden curse that morphs creatures into unintelligible blobs of flesh that feel nothing but unending agony. The curse also prevents people from dying, therefore they can't even kill themselves to end the pain. Vernon will then say during his research, he only found one way to get rid of the curse. To place the curse on someone, you need to draw some of their blood and keep it in a small vial. That vial is what the curse is placed on, and the person who curses the blood can siphon the life energy out of its victims to become even more powerful. If the blood is poured out of the vial, the curse will end. However, the person who is cursed will not revert back to normal. They'll just die. But death is considered a sweet release in comparison to the unbearable pain the people inflicted by this curse feel every second of every day. After meeting with the elven couple, the party will continue on their quest, and 1 or 2 sessions later, they will come across an abandoned fort the Giff mercenaries and Jericho are using as a temporary base. At this point, your party can use whatever tactics they want to try and invade the fort, but depending on what happens during the sessions in between, Vernon will possibly still have some gunpowder kegs. He will also mention he is good at crafting things for military combat and invasions, so let your party's imagination run wild. There are actually gunpowder keg mechanics next to the Giff stat block I'll toss up on screen here, but if the party wants Vernon to craft them a few grenades, sure, why not? There will also be a forest nearby, so he can craft some ladders, a battering ram, hell, maybe even a catapult. So long as your party's requests aren't too outrageous, just roll with it. I'm thinking we have anywhere from 10 to 20 of those homebrew Giff foot soldiers I mentioned earlier, along with 4 to 6 regular Giff and Captain Algernon, who will give the Giff stat block, but with an additional 2 AC, 20 HP, and an extra attack. And of course, Jericho will also be with them, so we'll give him the mage stat block from the monster manual, but up his AC to 15, his HP to 60, and his spell DC to 16. Once your party defeats the bad guys and hopefully captures Jericho alive per Vernon's request, Jericho will recognize Vernon, and Vernon, in a mad fury, will demand to know where Mabel's blood vial is. The truth will finally come out. When Vernon and Mabel witness the murder of Giff mercenaries at the hands of Jericho, Algernon, and his men, he left out the part where Jericho caught up with them and placed the Curse of Kaltuo on his daughter. Mabel was hit by a stray bullet that caused her to start bleeding. After running away from the battle and resting for a moment, a hooded man walked by and offered to treat her wounds. However, the man took some of Mabel's blood and placed a curse on her. When the man took off his hood, it was Jericho. Mabel screamed out in pain, and Jericho told Vernon if he squealed to Algernon's superiors, he would never lift the curse. Vernon took his daughter and fled, and never went to Algernon's superiors as he feared for Mabel's life. And then he slowly saw his daughter starting to become smaller and smaller and more disfigured, until she eventually turned into a feeble little worm, writhing in pain. That's right, the worm Vernon was carrying on his shoulder was in fact his own daughter. Wanting to free his daughter from the curse, he took her to the best clerics, did all of his research, and after discovering the only way to undo it, and figuring his superiors may not listen to him and send him back onto the front lines after reporting what happened, Vernon decided to march out on his own, hunt Jericho down, and end Mabel's suffering. Vernon did not tell the party any of this because he did not know what they'd think about a man who would willfully end his daughter's life, even if it is a mercy. The party will get what they need out of Jericho for their own purposes, and will find out Jericho was collecting cursed blood vials so he could give them to the BBEG to increase their power. And after scouring the fort, Vernon will find Mabel's vial. He will say a heartfelt and tearful goodbye, and just before pouring out the vial, he'll stop himself. Vernon won't be able to do it. How could he? Even if it's to end her own suffering? How could a father kill his own daughter? And that's when he'll turn to the party and ask one of them to please pour out the vial and end his daughter's life. After that, it's up to your party to decide what to do. But after their decision, Vernon will conclude there are still some Giff out there who committed atrocities against the Giff that were not located in this fort. And so he'll say his goodbyes and continue to hunt down those who caused this horrific situation. And who knows, maybe one day during their travels, the party will come across Vernon once again. So, a dark but heartfelt quest where your players can truly become invested in a storyline that really has nothing to do with them or their main objectives? I think this is definitely spicy enough, but if you really wanted to, how could we make it even spicier? Well, if the encounter is a little too dark for your liking, you could always have Vernon keep his daughter alive and continue on with his quest. Then later on, your party could come across a way to reverse the curse of Kaltuo, allowing them to reach a happier ending. Another way is having the fortress booby-trapped with many different explosions and military equipment the Giff mercenaries can use against your party. And finally, you can have Jericho flee and have Mabel's blood vial remain somewhere in your fort, allowing you to have your deep ending and still have a reoccurring villain your party now has a seething hatred for. But of course, these are just some of the many ways you can use Giff in your Dungeons & Dragons campaign. There are tons of different ways to take this encounter and spice it up, so please let me know what you would do in the comment section below so I can nerd out over it and smack myself in the head for not thinking of it. Also, let me know if there are any creatures you would like me to build an encounter for in my future videos. I'm going to try and put out at least one of these videos a week, so feel free to subscribe and share this video around if you liked it, and stay tuned for upcoming content. Thanks for watching and indulging my hidden nerdy side.